I'm not a very religious person, but for a small nation like this one, 700,000 to survive and regain its country without an army backing it, must be an act of God. After the Santa Cruz massacre, I swear to myself, the world cannot go back to business as usual. Santa Cruz was unique because there were a hidden camera right inside the cemetery. So that was a turning point. And since then, I personally struggled desperately not to allow the world to go back to sleep.
Je ne comprends pas exactement pourquoi maintenant il parle de départ de New York, etc. Qu'est-ce que c'est ça?
José Ramos Horta has been fighting for the independence of East Timor for 23 years. Exiled from his homeland, his life has been an endless series of taxis, airports and hotel rooms.
J'irai à Grèce.
When we started filming with José, East Timor was no closer to freedom. The world had once again closed its eyes to the continuing torture, repression and massacre. But what no one could have predicted was how quickly this was all about to change.
Si ça confirme, j'irai à Catalogne. Sinon, je pars directement en Australie. Let me tell you one thing. I hate these fucking glasses. You have to take it out when I read. I have to put it out when I finish reading.
Lisbon is the venue for the first ever Timorese National Convention, and José has arrived to chair it. The convention is a landmark event. For the first time in 23 years, the pro-independence forces are to bury their differences and form a united front.
It's the first convention getting together all Timorese groups. We have like 99% participation of the Timorese and the diaspora. Plus, we have the mandate of those inside to carry out this convention. The next 2-3 years are going to be crucial. Either we make it or we are thoroughly defeated. If we're defeated, it will be largely, partly because of our own inability to unite.
The idea of uniting the resistance is the initiative of imprisoned leader Xanana Gusmao. Using smuggled videos, faxes and cell phones, Xanana has designed the convention agenda from his Jakarta prison cell. To the Timorese, Xanana is truly a Mandela-like figure. Before being captured, he had led the Falantul guerrillas in the rugged mountains of East Timor. Xanana brought the guerrillas back from the brink of the oblivion of Indonesian bombing, building them into an effective fighting force. The guerrillas, though small in number, were the armed hope, the symbol that for almost a quarter of a century kept the hopes of the resistance alive.
Para encerrar esta sessão, solenemente declarar Xanana Guzmão, líder da resistência timorense, presidente do Conselho Nacional da Resistência Timorense, CNRT.
On the convention's final day, a coalition representing all the political factions is formed, united under Xanana's leadership. José is elected vice president, second only to Xanana. It's an uneasy alliance, but a major step forward.
Okay, see you later.
Ironically, as the Timorese were finally coming together, Indonesia was beginning to tear itself apart.
He said the words the entire country wanted to hear.
I have decided to declare my resignation from the office of President of Indonesia.
32 years of iron-fisted rule now brought to an end by a disparate group of opposition forces.
Congratulations on outliving the dictator Suharto. How are you doing?
I kept thinking, how can this shit of an empire, pardon my French, this piece of shit of a dictator, you know, poverty-stricken country, because beyond the facade of a tall building high-rise, it is an extremely poor country. How would it survive?
Whenever he's in Sydney, José stays with his mother, Natalina. Natalina lived in the mountains with the Falantal guerrillas for 4 years before she was captured by the Indonesian army. For her, Suharto's departure meant little. It was the Indonesian military that really ran the country.
10 days ago, lit the fuse that brought Suharto to his knees.
A little bit of optimism?
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah. International pressure is increasing. Yeah, on those in Jakarta.
Interesting time.
Yeah.
Look, we'll just get you sitting in because we'll...
In our Sydney studio this morning is Nobel Peace Prize winner and Vice President of the National Council of Timorese Resistance, José Ramos Horta.
All we ask is an opportunity which the people of Timor never had, to have a referendum under UN supervision. East Timor was never part of the Dutch East Indies. It is not Kalimantan. It is not Sumatra. It was invaded and occupied in 1975 in breach of Indonesia's own history.
They start arriving since Monday. 6, 7 boats together, very close to our border. No, they're not there just for fun, you know. They're preparing a massive operation.
With Indonesian warships closing in on East Timor, the Fretland Party declared independence from Portugal.
It was not a joyous moment. It was really sad. It was really tragic. It was probably the chapter before last towards, the abyss, towards before the invasion, before this fate of the country was actually sealed. It was not like, the first chapter towards independence, but it was like the chapter before last towards death, towards destruction of the country.
The new government made José foreign minister. He was assigned to raise support for the fledgling nation. As he boarded a plane, Fretland forces headed for the hills to prepare guerrilla bases. By the time José's plane touched down in New York, Indonesia had already invaded. Those journalists who remained to witness the invasion were killed.
Estava eu em casa com os meus três, Mariazinha e 4 filhos em casa, quando o avião começou a baixar, a fazer o barulho muito grande, né? Saímos, olhei para cima, era paraquedistas a cair. Eu tirotei os militares, os nossos. Guerrilheiros estavam a mandar com bombardeamento. Foi horrível. Aquilo parecia que estavam a Segunda Guerra Mundial a bombardear. Eles entravam ali, aquilo aparecia pela frente, era tudo fuzilado, era matar. Indonésia, sei lá o que eles queriam. Queriam era tudo que aparecia pela frente, era tudo fuzilado. Este é esta minha filha que foi morta com bombardeamento, era bebê. Mariazinha. Este também é recordações tristes. Este é o meu filho que morreu na guerra, desapareceu. Estes são 3 irmãos, a Rosa, está lá Mariazinha, que morreu lá também, e o Nuno, eram pequenos ainda. Este é o Zé, os outros todos não conhecem, são tipos membros. E parece que era o mais jovem que estava lá nas Nações Unidas, com 21 ou 22 anos.
Sim.
Este é ele.
Isso aqui parece que usava bem a gravata, né?
Lonely, exasperating, desperate. No news about the family. It was really unpleasant, painful experience. Even if I discounted half of what my comrades were telling me, the picture was horrifying, of thousands of people being slaughtered throughout the country. Napalm was being used, starvation was setting in because people were forced to flee from one place to another. On the other hand, Fretilin was fighting valiantly, and there was some hope at the time that the Indonesians could actually negotiate, because the resistance was far more than they expected.
E é uma pessoa, portanto, todo o dia trabalhando, não é? Na ONU. E à noite, durante largos meses, ele trabalhava como guarda noturno numa escola privada, não é? Para, de facto, poder ganhar muita gente que não conhece isso. Ele muitas vezes passava mal, do ponto de vista de equilíbrio emocional. Por exemplo, eu achava que o Zé, e continuo a achar que o Zé é uma pessoa que um bocado carente e uma pessoa que precisa de um apoio muito permanente, de alguém que esteja sempre ao lado dele. Eu não podia fazer isso, quer dizer, nós estávamos de facto muito separados fisicamente.
The marriage simply broke down because of distance, but I have to confess, she was a better individual than I am. I don't think it's only because of the distance. Distance was a good excuse for me. She was very loyal and dedicated and serious, while I was having, other romantic liaisons going on in New York.
E é uma pessoa também que está muito habituada a viver sozinho. Uma pessoa que se habituou a viver sozinho dificilmente passa para uma situação em que diariamente tem que compartilhar. Nesse aspecto, ele terá sofrido, porventura, mais que os outros, porque foi uma pessoa que sempre teve que ficar nas Nações Unidas e nós não tínhamos qualquer hipótese de, para além dele, eu estar lá ou ir lá ou qualquer coisa. Portanto, ele sempre, de alguma maneira, sempre foi condenado, entre aspas, a estar muito só para poder fazer avançar a luta.
If you're a non-resident, please complete your arrivals card before reaching the immigration counter. Friends and family who are greeting you at the airport can get up-to-the-minute information on your arrival time.
3월을 씌우자 합니다. 3원 돌아옵소! 3원 보!
The Secretary General of the United Nations is mediating dialogue between Indonesia, Portugal and ourselves. With international pressure, with the support of the Indonesian democracy movement, maybe soon there can be a solution to the problem of East Timor.
Very tasty, but I'm really eating junk food, I tell you. This sausage is hard like a bullet. If I throw it on you, it could kill you.
I think that what we have achieved here is indeed not yet a breakthrough in substance, perhaps, but certainly a very good progress in the way in which we will proceed towards a solution.
The breakthrough came when Secretary General...
Indonesia needs foreign aid. It can no longer ignore international pressure over East Timor. Indonesia's new president, Habibie, finally gives ground. And back in Timor, the move opens the floodgates. Students and independence leaders hold rallies which once would have been violently suppressed by the military. But Habibie's offer of limited autonomy means East Timor still remains a province of Indonesia.
I'm not prepared to trust them, to believe them. I want to see a referendum so that people of East Timor choose their future. I'm not going to accept, cosmetic decisions, cosmetic arrangements, not only over my dead body.
José is on his way to join his resistance colleagues for talks with the enemy, Timorese who want the country to remain part of Indonesia. This is the fourth such meeting that the UN have organised between the two sides. Up to now they've all been failures, but this one may have a different outcome. All the senior resistance leaders have arrived, including Jawa, the leader of the second largest pro-independence party, the UDT. The pro-integrationists are represented by Lopez de Cruz. He and the other East Timorese businessmen and civil servants have profited from their long alliance with Indonesia. But the shifting political climate means that they suddenly have a lot to lose.
Your meeting takes place at a critical stage in the efforts to find a peaceful political solution to the problem of your homeland. Those efforts have reached the crossroads. We believe that the East Timorese have the primary responsibility for developing and producing ideas and for building a consensus amongst themselves.
The UN mediators want the two sides to seek common ground. But any discussion of East Timor sovereignty is strictly forbidden. This would split the meeting into two irreconcilable camps, one for independence and the other for East Timor to remain part of Indonesia. Each side has brought its own document to the table. The resistance has two key demands: the withdrawal of Indonesian troops from East Timor and the release of political prisoners, including Xanana Gusmao.
This fourth meeting of the AITD will proceed on the basis of the existing terms of reference of the meeting, and I would like to request the members of the press to leave the room.
A Indonésia está em ruínas, da bancarrota total, bancarrota econômica, política e moral. Estamos dispostos a explorar todas as vias, ideias, por uma solução justa do conflito, assente no respeito, em letra e espírito, no nosso direito à livre autodeterminação. Mas não aceitamos a rendição. O povo timorense nunca se rendeu.
One of the senior resistance leaders, José Luis Guterres, has just received a message from the Falantal guerrillas. The news is alarming. Reports of a campaign of terror by a militia armed by Indonesian troops.
Olha, então o time é SACA, S-A-T-A, SACA, são um conjunto de, digamos, milícias, né, preparados por
Precisávamos ter voz para isto.
Guterres is a close ally of José's. But unlike José, he is optimistic that the huge gap between the two sides can be bridged. Despite Guterres' optimism, pro-integration delegates are offended by José's strong rhetoric of the previous day. They tabled their own document, which the resistance in turn rejects. The dialogue has reached a stalemate.
Encontrava uma solução intermédia, pronto, e assinamos os documentos. É a mesma coisa que nós estamos a tentar fazer agora.
Mas esta tentativa já é a quarta vez. Agora estar a tentar quatro vezes é demais. Vocês estão mesmo a querer deitar casca de banana para a gente escorregar. Isto é que não se pode.
Não, a intenção não é isso.
Some are real idiots, you know, whenever they open their mouth, it's shit that comes out. You know, sometimes I feel like puke, you know, because of their lack of sense of dignity.
Vem agora essa autonomia, não é? Sob os auspícios, não é? Da Indonésia. É claro, eles ainda se sentem alérgicos a isto, não é? Eu compreendo perfeitamente a posição deles, não é? Mas nestes casos nós temos que pensar não com a cabeça, não com o coração, mas com a cabeça.
These people are actual puppets. They fit into the very definition of a puppet. So you cannot negotiate with them. They are here only because the Indonesians insisted with the UN that they have to be invited in order to be balanced. But balance is not achieved by bringing puppets. Some of them apparently have a law degree. I don't know where they got that law degree. Maybe under a bridge, somewhere in Indonesia. That's where they studied law. And I tell you, if that is the creme de la creme of the Timorese intelligentsia, God save East Timorese people. So now they don't even want to discuss not only the political status, whether East Timor is 27th province or non-sovereign territory. They say everything is politics, so you don't discuss the invasion, you don't discuss Indonesian military presence. This document that we prepared is the minimum we should do. So it seems like there is not going to be possible to have a consensus on this document. We sign it. Each of us, whoever agrees with it, sign it. It will go down in history as the people with a conscience who sign it.
E agora, em relação a outro aspecto de assinar ou não assinar o documento, eu tenho um ponto de vista que é o seguinte. Porque esse documento, quer dizer, nós assinar, eu creio que será um motivo para os outros dizerem, bom, eles forçaram a barra, não quiseram compromisso, por isso é que a AITD acabou.
O Congresso americano assinou, adotou em lei a exigência de um referendo em Timor. E o bill, depois, é assinado pelo presidente. o diálogo inda-timorense recusa a falar de um referendo. Que raio de... E nós pactuamos com isso? O CNRT? Não. I don't mind being in this castle, but without the group. Just to relax, to write, to read, that's one possibility. Another, maybe lounging on a beach with Sharon Stone, adequate distance from each other, engage in some intellectual debate about Hollywood, about problems in the world.
It appears José has softened his tough stand of the previous evening to try and negotiate a document that's acceptable to the pro-integrationists. By mid-morning, the two sides appear close to agreement, but one sticking point remains: Shinana's unconditional release.
We haven't finished yet.
The meeting breaks up several hours before the scheduled end. It's a move instigated by José, without consulting his colleagues.
Obviamente eu não assinaria esse documento. Esse documento ainda não chegou às mãos, não chega às mãos sem. O intertimorense é um pequeno sideshow. E neste sideshow estão cá funcionários indonésios que procuram torpedear tudo, bloquear.
Já vou atrasado para a coisa, né?
Não, mas então não está. Eu gosto de sobre o vosso documento.
Depois.
Não, mas responda-me só uma pergunta simples.
Depois.
I have to go and check my luggage. Hello? Oh, yes. Thank you.
Todas as possibilidades de negociação abertas, e é por isso que eu partilho com os meus colegas a profunda mágoa e tristeza pela forma como o Dr. Ramos Horta se portou aqui.
Mas o que é que se deve aquele documento que vocês assinaram em conjunto? Desculpa, eu tenho aqui uma pergunta só para clarificar isso. Qual é, mágoa e tristeza, o que se passou com o Dr. Ramos Horta, porquê? O que é que se passou? O que é que se está a passar, sinteticamente?
Sim, o Dr. Ramos Horta veio aqui à ETD já com a preocupação fundamental de acabar com essa...
Não mandas calar, pá. Não, pá. Não mandas calar. Interrompes a coisa que eu estou a
Não mandas calar, pá.
Não volto, coisa que estavas a interromper era o Sr. Geologista Guterres.
Faço uma queixa deontológica.
Agora deontológica, pá. Estavas a interromper uma frase que estava com o Dr. José Luís Guterres.
Não, Dr. José Luís Guterres.
Pá, pronto, então eu faço a parte, pá. Pronto, façam vocês perguntas e eu faço a parte.
Não voltas a fazer isso. Eu não sei agora qual é a pergunta, se faz favor.
A questão principal está na declaração do Ramos Horta, dizer que o AITD acabou.
Isso tem um grande ponto de diferença, e então a resistência, o Conselho Nacional Total tem um grande ponto de diferença com o Ramos Horta, coisa que fez.
Bom, como veem, quer dizer, é a primeira vez que aflora para conhecimento do público que as diferenças não são apenas minhas. Há diferenças com todos os outros dirigentes políticos. E eu sinto-me feliz porque tiveram agora a coragem de publicamente dizer que o Ramos Horta não está certo.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jose. Happy birthday to you.
I wish?
I wish.
Okay, Timor will be free in 99.
Bravo!
And it will be.
This for Indonesia.
In an historic move last night, Indonesia's foreign minister offered the East Timorese the prospect of full independence if they reject limited autonomy. Joining me now in the studio is exiled Timorese leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner José Ramos Horta. Thank you for your time tonight, Mr. Ramos Horta. Firstly, what's your reaction to this Indonesian offer?
I judge the Indonesians by their actions on the ground. There is still a lot of killing, huge army military presence there, rape, mutilation of bodies. In the last 2 months, at least over 100 people have been murdered. There are hundreds and hundreds of refugees there.
So you're sceptical that they're serious?
I'm very skeptical, and we are used to so many empty promises of the past.
Habibie's move catches everybody, including the resistance, completely by surprise. In spite of his initial scepticism, José is optimistic. Independence has to be close at hand, and planning must start now. José is relying on his Portuguese friends, Timor's former colonial rulers, to open a few doors.
You're doing well.
You're still here?
Yes, and I will continue staying on.
An independent East Timor will need substantial diplomatic support and massive international aid. Within 10 years, Timor could become self-sufficient, if everything goes according to plan.
Eu concordo com Xanana quando diz não vai haver guerra civil. O James Marca disse não vai haver guerra civil. Há problemas agora, mas isto vai passar. É uma espécie de tempestade. As tempestades não duram eternamente. Duram uns dias, umas semanas ou uns meses.
José is on his way to see Australian Foreign Minister Alexander Downer. Australia has revised its position on Timor. In 1976, it was the first Western country to recognise Indonesia's occupation. Now the Howard government is backing a United Nations supervised referendum and recognising independence as a likely outcome. Downer's department has lately received intelligence reports which not only predict a growing wave of violence by armed militia, but suggest the Indonesian army at the highest level is behind it.
You guys come round here.
Okay. It's a hopeless position to be because we've got to walk and sit down there. You can't stand there. They have to be ruthless about it.
Yeah.
The meeting is not for the media, but anyway, the media can take a picture. See?
Good
Hi.
afternoon, Minister.
How are you? See you again?
See you again.
Yeah. We'll gather around. Well, it's quite a time since I've seen you, but
yes, in Adelaide.
In Adelaide, yeah.
Downer does not mention the intelligence reports. He tells the delegation that an international peacekeeping force to oversee the referendum is out of the question.
Certainly we agree with the Minister that it is not in the practice of the UN to send in armed troops to confront another conventional army, whatever it is. That is not the role of the UN. I believe we can sum up two major issues. One, the need for Indonesia to keep its promise in withdrawing its troops from East Timor and disarming the paramilitary. Because if this happens, then we don't even need to think about a UN armed presence in East Timor.
José's ploy to keep the Australians on side and not press for armed peacekeepers angers João Carrasco. Ever since his abrupt walkout from the Austrian conference, José's strategic moves have alienated many in the resistance.
Alexander Downer started saying that he opposed the presence of the peacekeeping force because it was not time yet, and José Horta went along with him. And then he proposed to send a police force to East Timor, unarmed. Well, I got out of my mind, of course, and then I had a very heated argument with Alexander Downer, because sending an unarmed police force to East Timor is like sending a child to the mouth of a wolf.
There's been a massacre in the town of Likissa. More than 200 people have been slaughtered by the pro-Indonesian militia. A few days later, and in full view of the Indonesian military, the Atarik militia, led by Eureka Gutierrez, target the capital Dili for its next rampage.
Mulai tanggal 17 dan seterusnya mencari dan mengadakan penangkapan. Kalau dia lawan, tembak ke mati.
As many as 100 independence supporters were killed. Amongst them, the son of independence.
They attacked the house of resistance leader Manuel Carrascalao, Joao's brother. Manuel's son is hacked to death.
He told me, your nephew just been killed, and I couldn't do anything. I've been seeing him cut into bits.
Foi ontem, durante o dia. Foi ontem. É incrível, mas parece mentira, mas é verdade. Pá. Parece mentira, nenhuma pessoa... Ainda bem que estava lá pessoas para poderem filmar e mandar a imagem para fora. Muitos, esses anos todos fizeram tanta barbaridade e nunca houve reportes para poder passar aquilo tudo para fora. E esses anos todos só andam a mentir, tanto a Latos e os ministros são todos os mentirosos que só mentem, matam 20, que só mataram 1, matam 100, só mataram 2. Aquele caso Lixá, barbaridade. Não foi timorense, aquilo foi militares, brimocos que atiraram gás, bomba, coisa de fumo, e eles não conseguiram sair. Quando saíram, estava o militar a cercar e aqueles milícias com aquelas armas brancas ali a esfaquear aquela gente. E o corpo desapareceu tudo. À tardinha, à noite, eles levaram com caminhões, não sabe para onde foram pôr. E a lata só diz que não, está tudo bem, agora mesmo na fuça dele. Não tem outro nome a chamar o Alatas também, outro bandido, outro aldrabão mentiroso. Para ele, talvez ano 2000, o prêmio Nobel para a Indonésia, um grande zero como a ilha da Indonésia.
The Indonesian police are determined to take their responsibility to keep law and order and peace and tranquility in East Timor. And when the UN presence will be there, of course, they will consult one another, etc. But there will be no foreign peacekeeping forces.
A minibus full of militia members attacked the UN aid convoy as it passed through an area that's been the site of heavy militia activity in recent months. The aid workers were forced to flee for their lives.
The Indonesian military is arming these thugs, and they're watching these thugs massacre people. There's nothing anybody can do to stop this, is there, really? The international community, you yourselves, are impotent to do anything to stop it, aren't you?
To some extent, I hope that Indonesia does not test our patience. I hope they do not go on underestimating our determination. They will pay dearly if they try to roll back the current dialogue and the current process of dialogue towards independence of East Timor. They will pay dearly.
As the violence worsens, Indonesia makes a diplomatic gesture. The exiled leadership is allowed to travel to Jakarta to meet Shanana and participate in another reconciliation meeting with the pro-integration Timorese. Horta's long anti-Indonesian crusade has made him public enemy #1 in Jakarta. But now, for the first time in 23 years, he'll be stepping onto Indonesian soil. The last time José was here was in 1975, when Indonesia promised it would not stand in the way of an independent East Timor. The promise was never kept.
I'm very pleased to come to Jakarta, and I want to thank the Foreign Minister Ayalatas for facilitating the reconciliation meeting here, for facilitating my visit here. I have been very warmly treated by the authorities. There are people of goodwill in this country. We cannot say that everybody is responsible for what's happening in East Timor. So I believe that President Habibie, General Wiranto, the best people of this country, will put their efforts together with us to create the condition of peace.
Shanana, who was recently moved from a jail cell to house arrest, has not seen his deputy José for 23 years. But in the past year, they've been on the phone, virtually daily.
No.
How do you feel, eh?
I feel wonderful to some extent. Obviously, I would prefer to visit Shanana somewhere else.
Please.
É verdade, está muito próximo.
Vem já.
You said you prefer to meet Shanana somewhere else.
Maybe like in Delhi. Yeah.
Pronto, entra já, mano.
Hello.
Okay.
Yang ini satu orang bisa, Mas. Sorry, indah pada ngiri jadi ribut semua.
Come on.
Okay.
Ada perintah nggak ada.
Pak mau undang sebentar, Pak.
Udah, oke, saya kasih waktu 5 menit.
Sebentar.
Oke. Ya, oke, silakan.
It seems obvious to us that this whole event has been stage managed for the foreign media. Shanana has been temporarily released from house arrest for the meeting. Resistance leaders from inside and outside the country are present, including Joao and his brother Manuel. The pro-integration Timorese are here too, like Lopez de Cruz, as well as militia leader Eureka Guterres, who ordered the massacre where Manuel's son was killed. Yet, conspicuously absent is the main player behind all this violence, the Indonesian military.
In an orderly fashion, anyone who is not being orderly will not be allowed in the room. And if you think I'm joking, I'm not. You have a 15-minute warning now to get yourself ready.
After 3 days of closed-door discussions, there are rumours of a breakthrough.
Well, next time, don't disobey the instructions. They're real simple. Cameraman? That was not the instruction.
The reality is quite the opposite. The two sides have agreed to abide by the results of the referendum. But that's all. Deep divisions remain. But in an unexpected move, the resistance extends an olive branch, pledging to share power with the pro-integrationists if the independence side wins.
If everybody in Timor were as bad as Lopes Cruz, it would be already a much better place. And if the Indonesian side were to leave us alone to work with Lopes Cruz, we can sort out the differences.
You were fairly damning when you described him, spoke about him to me then, and described him as a puppet and so on.
Did I? Am I sure? I don't remember that.
You don't? Okay.
With the peace talks over, the resistance meets to plan its strategy for the coming referendum, with Xanana for the first time in the chair. As the days pass, tensions surface once again.
Mas não estou preocupado a fazer guerra a essas associações. Deixo que façam o seu trabalho. Provem. Eu ando a fazer guerra a essas associações.
João claims his party is being sidelined and tenders his resignation, which is not accepted. A deal is struck. A split in the resistance is something Xanana must avoid. The escalating violence in Timor has also served to unite the group and bring José closer to his colleagues. But now Xanana is in control and José is in the background, listening rather than leading. Before leaving, José joins the resistance leadership for a meeting with Foreign Minister Alatas.
The Indonesian government is very interested to ensure that whatever the outcome, there would continue to be peaceful conditions in East Timor. What we are simply saying is that we are not going to pack up in a huff, angry. No, we are not. We are going to separate peacefully, orderly. Baik-baik dan tertib, as we say in Indonesian. You see? I hope something positive will come out in your reports this time.
Publicly, José accepts Alatas's assurances, but later on the plane he tells us he doesn't believe them. However, it's too late to stop things now.
Almost 24 years to the day since Indonesia annexed East Timor, its people finally began the process which will see them decide their own future.
A jubilant show of support for East Timorese independence at a resistance rally in Dili. Pro-integration supporters took over the streets of Dili, led by militiamen on motorbikes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
How do you feel?
It's funny, I just remember that this is the first time in 24 years that I registered to vote anywhere in the world.
Independence Day.
It is an extraordinary day. There is an incredible inner happiness, joy about this day for the people of East Timor, because that's what we've been fighting for 24 years, demanding the right of the people of East Timor to vote on their future. One man, one woman, one vote.
Vitória pode haver, vai acontecer, mas para mim esta alegria não, nunca mais tenho. Esta alegria porque já perdi meus 3 filhos. E não sei se ainda vai perder mais. Está morrendo muita gente. Não é da minha família, mas é muito triste.
I feel like, having climbed, a very steep mountain, which took 24 years to climb, finally reached the top, and I'm physically exhausted.
Continuo com a Indonésia, é tudo e mais alguma coisa. A Indonésia só andou a matar, a mentir. E para mim nunca. Para mim nunca.
Obrigado.
É muito triste.
The call from Dili saying that everything is calm, everybody has come down from the mountains again to vote.
For peace in Timor and for all those who died in the last 23 years.
Tudo,
Where is the mother? Why? Are you scared of me? Obrigado, Sr. Presidente. Eu queria pedir-lhe a si, ao Sr. Presidente.
Tonight, the thorny issue of East Timor looks close to being resolved. The polls have closed following a relatively peaceful day of voting. The turnout is said to have been above 90%. In the Sydney suburb of Liverpool is independence campaigner Jose Ramos Horta. Mr Horta, can I firstly ask you how you feel tonight? You've spent a lifetime fighting for a free Timor.
It has been a long, long march. So far, our people have shown their incredible determination to cast the ballot.
So after a quarter of a century in exile, you must be looking forward to returning to East Timor. When do you think that may be?
As soon as Xanana returns, which should be happening in the next few weeks, if the current relative peace in East Timor prevails.
Figures announced today show 78.5% were in favour of independence, just 21% for Indonesia's autonomy plan.
East Timor now stands on the threshold of what we all hope will be a process of orderly and peaceful transition towards independence.
The news brought jubilation on the streets of East Timor.
Arriving in New York, Nobel laureate Jose Ramos his prediction, short step, of thanking Indonesia's leaders.
Tonight there's a palpable atmosphere of fear in the territory. Shots have been fired and there have been unconfirmed reports of 30 or more killings outside Dili.
Within hours of the vote being declared, houses in a pro-independence area of Dili were torched. There was panic outside a Dili hotel as two armed Itarak militiamen menaced journalists and UN staff, forcing them to flee inside. Indonesian police surrounded the hotel and took up strategic positions inside and on the roof.
Militiamen are right outside the hotel.
Police
Did you feel
under any direct threat yourself?
The army and militias now have Dili shut down to the point where it's impossible to know how many have died in the violence.
And this is the sort of pattern that was being predicted for weeks and months.
Bishop Bello has contacted the UN to say that thousands of refugees sheltering in his compound have been taken away. Thousands more sheltering with the Red Cross are also gone, reportedly marched down to the beach.
Massacres on a large scale are not beyond them.
The militias now turn their attention to us journalists. We were trapped, and the person being beaten is my BBC colleague, Jonathan Head.
We came here to see for ourselves what the situation is, what conditions are. Everybody has agreed that the security situation is continuously improving.
women and children rolling around on the floor in terror for their lives. There was so much gunfire flying all over the place, the hotel, around the compound. These people thought they were being taken out to be killed.
An afternoon in Dili.
Here are 2,000 people in the UN headquarters saying that they need protection.
They're dying for the international force, and they thought, you know, some help was coming, but it's not coming.
The UN should have predicted the chaos.
Within a matter of days, Dili and much of Timor is razed to the ground. 2/3 of the population is displaced, either forcibly removed to Indonesian West Timor, or fleeing to the mountains and the safety of Palantir guerrilla strongholds. The burning and shooting is orchestrated to drive the United Nations and the foreign journalists away, and to provoke Palantir to strike back.
An emergency meeting of the UN Security Council.
The UN cannot send peacekeepers without Indonesia's approval, and Jakarta stubbornly refuses. So a fact-finding mission is sent instead.
As soon as possible to urge the government there to guarantee security.
José is in New York, pressing the UN for peacekeepers. He looks like the rest of us feel, distressed and completely powerless. While Dili burns, US President Clinton joins 21 other heads of state for the annual Asia-Pacific Economic Conference. Timor is to dominate the agenda. Up to now, the Americans have been walking a careful line, voicing concern without overtly criticizing an important Asian ally. José is close behind. He is here to secure a meeting with Clinton and gain his commitment to a peacekeeping force which the Australians are now ready to lead. It's hard to imagine what José has been through. The next few days are going to be crucial.
I repeatedly warned the UN that unless sustained firm pressure is bear on the Indonesian military, there would be a Rwanda-style scandal. If this happens, it will be all over in the news. And I have been tragically damn right.
What are the latest?
Eu creio que hoje, amanhã, o secretário-geral vai decidir se fecha completamente o NAMET ou não. Temos boas notícias, mas más também, não é? Mas a UNAMED vai se retirar totalmente. É a coisa de 1 minuto é que me disseram. Sim. Veio mais uma. Já tenho a entrevista, o encontro confirmado com o Clinton para segunda-feira.
Yes. Madame Shorta? Yeah, he's here. I'll just get José for you. Just hold on a minute, okay? José. Do you want to do an interview with the Portuguese radio?
Which radio?
Okay. Fernando, what is the name of your radio station? Capital FM. Okay. I'll just put you on. Hold on a minute. Margarita. Hello? Hello? Which television are you from?
NBC.
Catholic radio in Portugal, 2 minutes, and then you're next.
Okay.
All right? I promise.
What are they going to do in order to prevent a genocide? what are they going to do in order to preserve United Nations credibility that is already in tatters.
I could put you in between the television interview and Asia Week if you wish. What do you want, 5, 10 minutes?
The information I receive in the last few hours are the most disturbing, deeply disturbing. There are tens of thousands of civilians, women, children, elders.
Sorry to interrupt.
I think it's just thirsty.
Yeah. Sorry, Lucky. I'll try that again. Okay. 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 I'm sorry. Please continue.
Tens of thousands of civilians, women, children, and elderly, on the verge of starvation. They are trapped in the mountains of East Timor, and the commander of the resistance force in that area have made dramatic appeals to me and to the Portuguese authorities for an airlift of food supplies in order to prevent the starvation and famine and the death of many thousands of innocent people.
General Wiranto has been meeting with the United Nations delegation touring the territory. A 5-member team left Jakarta for Dili to assess the damage and report back to UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan.
This is devastation that can't be hidden. It took just a few days to lay waste to Dili. And they seemed almost proud of their handiwork, oblivious to the world's condemnation.
Margarita, who is going to pay your phone bill?
Over $1,000 this month.
This one, just from Timor alone, is about $4,000. I had to pay $800 the other day just to keep it going.
On the satellite phone is Taumatan Ruak, the Farantul commander. Tens of thousands of refugees fleeing Dili have reached the town of Dare and are being besieged by crack units of the Indonesian army.
They attacked Dare, These motherfuckers.
In Dare?
Yeah.
What other details have you got?
That they attacked Dare, there are 50 to 100,000 people there, internally displaced. There are already some suicide cases because people who were captured, women did not want to be raped, committed suicide. Desperate situation, no water, no milk, no food.
Savages.
There has to be a war crimes tribunal. There will be hundreds of them lining up to be tried. Yes, connect me to the Cardinal, please. Connect me to the Cardinal, Cardinal Sin. I told you my name 50 times already. Just connect me to the Cardinal. I told my name 50 times already. Stupid idiot. Yes, Your Eminence, this is José Ramos from East Timor. Yes, I want to ask you a favor. I need you, Your Eminence, and President Corey, both to issue a statement calling for the setting up of a war crimes tribunal on East Timor. That would be great because of your being from Asia and with your prestige and influence, it will be extremely important. Eminence, I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye. He said yes, he's doing it.
José and Joao are off to meet Clinton. What they don't know is that Clinton has already given Jakarta an ultimatum to allow international peacekeepers.
How did you find him?
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Convidei o presidente Clinton a vir a Timor e ele disse que sim, ele disse, I would love that. Portanto, eu agora não vou largar. O Clinton até gozou comigo, né? Eu dizia assim, eu falei com ele sobre o plano Marshall. Eu dizia, olha, senhor Presidente, eu conheço, né, a política do seu país, sei que não é decisão sua, vai ser do Congresso. Ele disse, você tem mais influência do que eu no Congresso americano, tanto você trata lá disso.
The present course of action is imperiling Indonesia's future, as well as that of the individual East Timorese. The Indonesian government and military must not only stop what they are doing, but reverse course.
At the Security Council's open session, the Secretary-General led the way in calling for Indonesia to allow peacekeepers into East Timor.
International pressure on Indonesia is enormous. President Habibie is to make a major announcement, and the world's media is converging on the presidential palace.
Again, we're not sure if the telephone call to UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan has taken place and may, in fact, be making that telephone call right now. Again, a lot has changed in the last 24 hours.
No!
Okay, if I miss, I give you
what?
$100.
No, show me the 100 first. No, have another go with Tom. He's not daring to do that. You're a bad shot.
I'll go for a banana.
Almost.
You can see now that the military officers are starting to get a little antsy walking back and forth. Mr. Habibie is now approaching the microphones.
A couple of minutes ago, I called the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Kofi Annan, to inform him about our readiness to accept international peacekeeping forces through the United Nations from friendly nation to restore peace and security in East Timor, to protect the people, and to implement the result of the direct ballot of the 30th of August, 1999. We cannot wait any longer.
God, you know, there were 2 fucking weeks that I will never forget. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to sleep as well. Good. This is no small victory. This is a huge one. Yeah.
Cheers.
It will take days to work out the terms under which Indonesia will accept a peacekeeping force. One problem remains. Indonesian troops will still be in Timor when the multinational force arrives.
My name is Shireen from CNN.
Hello? Well, those responsible, the Indonesian army responsible for the killings, the rape, the genocide, are going to be still there when the multinational force arrive. So I don't know exactly the plan of the UN, how they're going to address this, because keeping the Indonesian army there is like, you know, keeping the Hitler army intact after World War II. So I hope that they will get these animals, you know, these dogs, pack and leave.
So we have a real safe hand here. Thank you. Thank you. Good rest.
I think, you know what, Alatas, I'm sure he'll be coming this way. I don't want to have to see his fucking face.
Right.
Yeah.
I do not accept your accusation that we caused it. Okay, we could not immediately get on top of it, and now we're asking the help of the United Nations. But that is different from accusing us that we caused the problem. We didn't cause the problem because we were the ones that secured a very peaceful, a very enthusiastically participated referendum, a fair referendum. We proposed everything. So why should we, after the referendum, spoil everything? I beg you, use your logic before you put anything on paper.
Can I just ask one more question about the troops? Now, you said...
Hypocrites. The masters, they're playing with people's lives. They are playing with people's lives. It is a bit like Iraq and Kuwait when they left, destroying everything before they leave. And in view of this, do they want to have a role in East Timor? No, it's totally unacceptable. The May Agreement had this mistake with Indonesian troops on the ground. It resulted in its bloodbath. If Security Council want to make the same mistake with Indonesian troops on the ground, they say so. There's going to be bloodshed as soon as the multinational force is there. If the Indonesian army has any shame left, they should pack and leave. I'm obviously very happy, pleased with the turn of events that have made possible my return, the return of all my other compatriots. The last few months, the release of Xanana Guzmão, the beginning of the rebuilding of East Timor, the building of a new nation.
After almost a quarter of a century in exile, José is returning to his homeland, a country that he has lived in his imagination longer than in reality.
Você entra primeiro.
On your own, and just come down slowly.
No.
Just slowly.
Imi makaloka rai dalam bami. Imi makalo na kukun rai na Roma. Parhamutuk ita 45 uma fong ida, rai fong ida.
Savagery. How can an army of a proud country, or supposed to be proud country, do this?
It is a monument of shame to the Indonesian army. It's a monument of shame.
Os generais todos estão por trás daquilo tudo. Os militares estão ali. E hoje pensa que é um grande herói. Mataram aqueles homens indefesos, mulheres e crianças, bebês, são valentes. Esse tipo merece ser fuzilado ao público para os outros verem. Não há perdão. É melhor não perder tempo de sustentar esses indivíduos na prisão.
Mas o Xanana fala...
O Xanana fala, mas ele talvez não viu a televisão a dar, né? A gente vai perdoar um assassino desses? Eles não estão bem da cabeça também para perdoar um indivíduo destes.
Atus timu ini ada sebuah menadi mobil ini.
Hawakara kadete ta lifu ainda. Lifu ane nessa konaba Indonesia. Ita lalika nessa odi falicida. Neduni ita tu fo perdão basir na be halu salam. Ita fo lima loki fuang ba maru sira. Sita haru ne Timor lorosai se botu tang.
Ari la lamba.
Nai ulun Timor Leste, ari la lamba. Dulu re, dulu. Ari la lamba, la lamba.
I'm beginning to feel that my work here is much more important than my international work. I don't want to be in any formal government structure. I want to use my time here primarily to help the society, the younger generation, mobilize them to study, to go abroad to study. And at the same time, I want to help them locally, politically, promoting the culture of democracy, the culture of peace, of tolerance. If in 10 years from now, I have achieved that people understand what democracy is all about, the confrontation of ideas and not confrontation through weapons, then I said, well, I have deserved their trust. The very first letter I got from my mother, she didn't ask how I was. She was stuck here in Timor. She was in the mountains with the guerrilla. She was captured. She was stuck in Dili. The first thing she asked me told me in a message, she said, don't give up. Your comrades are still fighting in the mountains. She didn't say anything else. Anyway, Excellencies.
You never gave up?
No. And I'm not an ideological person, contrary to some writers in the past that I was a Marxist. I was never a Marxist. I was a social democrat, liberal, conservative sometimes. So I did not fight for some ideological purity. You know, for me, the only thing that mattered was justice for a people, and justice prevailed.
Timor Leste rairiku ari la lamba.
Timor Leste